The church was quiet, almost too quiet. The bride stood there in her simple white dress. Her hands trembled. She wasn't wearing expensive jewelry. There were no fancy flowers, no grand piano playing in the corner. Just a plain wooden altar, a handful of guests, and a man in a second-hand suit waiting for her at the end of the aisle. Everyone whispered, "Why would she do this? She's young. She's beautiful. She could have had anyone." But she didn't care. Because in her heart, love was louder than judgment. What she didn't know was that the man she was about to marry, the man everyone mocked for being poor, was hiding a truth that could change everything. Emotional explosion. The groom's shoes had holes in them. His tie didn't even match his jacket. And when he looked into her eyes, tears welled up, not because he was ashamed, but because no one had ever loved him like this before. People laughed. Some shook their heads. A few even walked out, but she walked toward him anyway, step by step, her voice trembling as she whispered to herself, "I don't need money. I don't need fame. I just need him." And that, my friends, is how this unbelievable story begins. First call to action. Before we dive deeper, let me pause here for just a moment, because stories like these remind us of something powerful, that kindness, loyalty, and love matter more than anything money can buy. So, if you believe in second chances, if you believe in the kind of love that survives storms, please, like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel Unbelievable Amazing Stories. Your support helps us bring real human stories to life. Alright, let's continue. Backstory to character depth. Her name was Clara. She didn't come from wealth. She came from resilience. Her mother raised her alone, working long hours as a seamstress. Life was never easy. Clara grew up wearing patched-up clothes and eating the same beans and rice most nights. But she also grew up with a lesson burned deep into her heart. Love people for who they are, not what they have. By the time Clara was in college, she worked 2 jobs, waitressing during the day and cleaning offices at night. She could have easily fallen for someone rich, someone who could take away her struggles. But she didn't, because that's not who she was. And then, one evening, after a long shift at the cafe, she met Daniel. He was sitting in the corner, nursing a cup of black coffee. He wasn't handsome in the traditional sense. His hair was messy, his shirt worn out. But there was something in his eyes, something warm, something safe. They talked. They laughed. And in those late-night conversations, Clara found something she had never found before: peace. Daniel told her he worked odd jobs. Construction one day, deliveries the next. Nothing steady. Nothing glamorous. But he was honest, humble, gentle, and Clara, she saw in him a soul richer than any millionaire. Rising tension, betrayal arc, but not everyone saw him that way. Her friends mocked her. "Clara, you're wasting your youth on a man who can't even buy you dinner." Her boss pulled her aside. "Sweetheart, you're smart, you're beautiful. You deserve a man with stability, not someone who struggles to pay rent." Even her own mother worried. "Clara, love is important, yes, but love doesn't pay the bills." The pressure was suffocating, and then came the cruelest blow. At a family gathering, Clara introduced Daniel. He showed up in his best shirt, still a little wrinkled, and carried flowers he bought with what little money he had. Her relatives didn't even hide their disdain. One aunt whispered loud enough for Clara to hear, "She's marrying a beggar. What a shame." Clara's face burned with humiliation. Daniel lowered his eyes, gripping the flowers so tightly the stems bent. But when they left that night, he turned to her and said softly, "If you're ashamed of me, I'll understand if you walk away." Her answer came without hesitation. "Daniel, I'd rather live in a shack with you than in a mansion with someone I don't love." Turning point, emotional breakdown. Their wedding day came. It was small, modest, almost embarrassingly plain compared to the grand weddings Clara had dreamed of as a child. But when she said, "I do," she meant it with every fiber of her being. And yet, marriage wasn't easy. The rent was late. Bills piled up. Clara worked extra shifts. Daniel came home exhausted, covered in dust and sweat. Sometimes, he was too tired to even talk. There were nights Clara cried quietly into her pillow, wondering if she had made a mistake. Not because she stopped loving him, but because love didn't erase the hunger in her stomach, or the cold draft seeping through their broken windows. And then came the breaking point. One night, after yet another fight about money, Daniel disappeared. He didn't come home, didn't answer his phone. Hours turned into days. Clara's chest tightened with fear and betrayal. Did he leave me? Was everyone right? She sat on the floor of their tiny apartment, surrounded by unpaid bills, her face buried in her hands. The man she chose over everything, the man she defended against the whole world, was gone. Or so she thought. Redemption and rebuilding. 3 days later, Daniel returned. But he wasn't the same. He walked in with clean clothes, calm eyes, and a quiet confidence she had never seen before. "Clara," he whispered, sitting across from her. "I owe you the truth." And then, he told her everything. Daniel was not poor. He never had been. He was the heir to a $1 billion fortune. A vast empire of businesses, properties, and investments left behind by his late father. But after his father's death, Daniel grew disillusioned with money. He watched how greed tore his family apart, how wealth destroyed relationships. So, he left it all behind. He wanted to know who would love him for himself, not for his bank account. That's why he worked odd jobs. That's why he lived simply. Because he wanted to be seen, not his money. Clara's hands shook. Her voice broke. "Why didn't you tell me?" His answer was simple. "Because I needed to know if you'd choose me. Not my wealth. Not my name, just me." New connection, positive twist. It took time. It wasn't an instant fairy tale. Clara felt hurt, even betrayed by the secret. But when she looked back, at the way he cherished her, the way he never gave up on their love despite poverty, she realized something. He had never lied about his heart, only about his circumstances. Soon, their lives began to change. They moved into a small but beautiful home. Not too lavish, not overwhelming. Clara chose to keep working, not because she had to, but because she wanted to stay grounded. Daniel supported her dreams, and together, they built something rare, a life balance between love and wealth. And the same relatives who once mocked him, they now smiled and praised. But Clara never forgot how quickly they turned against her. Because the truth is, wealth doesn't reveal character. Love does. Life lesson, emotional closure. So, what do we take away from this story? That real love is not blind, it sees everything. The flaws, the struggles, the sacrifices, and still says, "I choose you." Money can buy comfort, but it can't buy loyalty. It can build houses, but not homes. It can fill bank accounts, but not hearts. Clara didn't marry a billionaire. She married a man who, beneath the layers of secrecy, was rich in ways that money could never measure. And maybe that's what true wealth really is. Final call to action. If this story touched your heart, even for a moment, please give it a like. Share it with someone who still believes in love, or maybe with someone who's lost hope. And most importantly, subscribe to Unbelievable Amazing Stories. Because every week, we bring you real, raw, emotional journeys that remind us of one simple truth: love is still the greatest treasure of all.